Hey, what is up, mortals? It is Jessica Gem here with a new video for you. Welcome to part 7 of What If Deku Never Returned to UA. I just wanted to greet you guys by saying, sit back and relax, you're in for a treat. And so, we begin. Izuku Midoriya groaned as he slowly opened his eyes, taking in the unfamiliar surroundings. His body ached from the hard battle, and he could feel the bandages wrapped around his wounds. He remembered the events of the battle, how he had failed so miserably as the successor to One for All. He was afraid of what might have happened to his friends. He was afraid of what could have happened due to his lack of ability. He had let them down, and he had relied on them again. He squeezed his eyes shut, holding back tears in the process, and praying that Shigaraki didn't succeed in killing anyone. The cot beneath him scratched at his back. His chest was bare, and he could feel the tightness of the bandages irritating his skin. Wherever he was, there was a breeze that was passing over him. He felt it on his exposed scar tissue. It chilled him, but he ignored the sensation. He mustered up the strength to sit up. But just as he did, he collapsed back in a wave of pain. His arm was worse than before. Staring up at the ceiling, he took note of its tarp-like material and flapping movement. It was then he realized he was in a makeshift medical tent, and a wave of relief passed over him. They hadn't taken him back to UA, which meant he wasn't endangering all of the civilians or any more of his friends. Another thing he noticed rather quickly was that he was not alone. His teacher and predecessor, All Might, was sitting in the corner, looking down at the ground, his face unreadable. Izuku swallowed, and he forced himself to sit up again despite the pain. Choking back a grunt, he looked to his mentor for answers. All Might shifted his gaze upward, and Izuku could see the sadness in his eyes.
Young Midoriya.
Are they alive? His hoarse and tired-sounding voice cut his mentor off.
Everyone that was there, did they make it out? What happened?
All Might sighed and shook his head.
You have no need to worry about that. Everyone who was at the fight made it out alive. Shigaraki was subdued enough for everyone to make a strategic retreat.
Izuku released a shaky breath, not realize he'd been holding it in. He quickly wiped away the tears that had begun to form in the corner of his eyes.
I'm sorry,
he said, his voice barely above a whisper.
I'm sorry I failed you. They told me I was the one. I was supposed to be the final user. I was supposed to stop All for One and save everyone. But I couldn't even do that.
All Might stood and walked to him, his face gentle and understanding.
Izuku, you are strong and brave. I picked you because I saw that you had what it takes to be a true hero. Don't doubt me on that. You put your life on the line to protect not only your friends, but the innocent civilians as well. That is something to be proud of.
Izuku sniffled and nodded his head, knowing that his mentor was right. He had done his best, even if it wasn't enough. He just needed to keep trying, and eventually he would be strong enough to protect everyone.
But you need to stop.
What?
Listen to me, and listen to me well.
He took a seat next to Deku on the cot.
I've made a grave error, young Midoriya. One that I haven't seen until recently.
Izuku furrowed his eyebrows in confusion, fear coating his every word.
What do you mean?
All Might's sunken eyes looked over to Izuku's, and in a moment of weakness, tears poured down the broken man's face.
I don't regret giving you One for All, my boy. I will never regret that decision. But I do regret not seeing what it would enable within you.
He took a deep breath before continuing.
When I was younger, my dream, my goal, was to be a pillar for society. I worked at that goal for so many years. I pushed away my friends and colleagues, and the people I loved were taken from me, so I kept them at a distance. I was so focused on being the sole pillar, on holding everyone up, that I didn't realize just how dangerous that could be.
All Might's gaze shifted out to the entrance of the tent. Izuku followed it, and outside they could see fires and death plaguing the world. Smoke off in the distance, cars and buildings were broken down, trees were set aflame. Japan was screaming out in agony.
I look at this world now. I look at what's happened to Japan, what happened to Tenko Shimura, and I feel the root of it all is me. I know I'm not all to blame, and I know I can't control certain things, but I see my mistakes now. I've let society rely too much on one person, one figure, All Might. I had thought I could do it alone, but I never realized just how bad things would have gotten if I couldn't.
All Might. Izuku's eyes filled with tears that hesitated to fall. Toshinori looked to him with gentleness.
All Might the hero was a soul pillar, and once that pillar broke, society went with it. We can't just rebuild that pillar, young Midoriya. We have to find a new way. I see you, ever since you left me behind after All for One's explosions. You're going down the same path I did. You're trying to save the world by yourself, and I see it in your eyes. I promise you, you don't have to.
He wiped away his tears and looked at Izuku, his eyes still pained but with renewed hope.
Young Midoriya, you don't have to do it alone. You don't have to be the sole pillar of society. You can't save the world by yourself. Don't be like me. Don't focus solely on shouldering that burden alone, and let those who care about you help. You can't do it alone, but that's okay. You shouldn't have to. I chose you because I saw a quirkless boy run out and risk his life to save another, all while people with powers stood by. Now you have that power, and you're...
More tears start to form and rush down All Might's face.
And you're going to kill yourself trying to save everyone. I can't have that, Izuku. I can't have you throw away your life as I did mine. So that's what I'm asking you. Don't try to be the sole pillar, but instead, help build up a strong foundation, one that's sturdy, one that won't crack as easily as it did with mine.
Izuku was speechless. He had known his mentor had been through a lot, but he had never known just how much he had sacrificed and how much he was still suffering. He looked down at his hands, remembering the battle and the lives that he had been unable to save. He could feel the bandages around his body, a reminder of the pain he had endured. He looked back up at All Might, eyes filled with unease and contemplation.
How? I understand everything you're saying, All Might, and I understand why you're saying it to me. I get it. But how do you have this power and not answer the call to save? Every time I see someone in danger, I can't stop myself from going. And no one else can keep up or make it there in time, so it has to be me. One for All gives me an ability that no one else has. If I slow down for even a second, then a life might be taken. A life I could have saved.
Toshinori sighed.
It's difficult, young Midoriya. I'm not going to lie. It might be one of the most difficult things you will ever have to accomplish in your life. But not answering that call does not mean you have to leave people in danger, or not save them, or not even try. Of course, save everyone you must, but you need to allow yourself to rely on others. Let them help you. Gosh, I forget just how young you are sometimes. But every other hero that wants to help you is just as prepared to lay down their life. Not accepting their help, not working with them, and just going on your own. It's not the right way. It will lead to a grim path that I cannot and will not let you walk down.
Izuku's eyes widened. He could feel the conviction in his mentor's words. I understand. I understand what you're saying. All Might nodded.
Good. And I know it will be hard, but you have to find a way to trust and rely on others. It can be both rewarding and terrifying, but if you don't, you will be walking down the same path I did, and I can't let that happen.
Izuku was silent for a moment, letting the words sink in. He knew his mentor was right, and he knew it would be hard, but he also knew it fought against every urge he has in his body. Letting other people endanger themselves, lay down their life when he himself could do it instead? Or maybe that was the point. Maybe he couldn't do it all himself, and that's what All Might really was saying in the end. No one person can fix everything. Even if it would be the hardest thing he'd ever have to do, he had to find a way to rely on others, to learn to trust them, to work together. He had to learn to be more than just the inheritor of One for All, but also a leader, a protector, and a hero. If he didn't, nothing would change. He would die, everyone else would die, and he'd repeat the same mistakes All Might made. He can't do that.
I won't let you down, Izuku said, his voice strong and unwavering. I'll find a way to make it work. I'll find a way to make sure that no one has to sacrifice themselves as you did. And I promise you, I won't walk down that path. I won't be the sole pillar. I'll build a strong foundation with everyone I can, and I'll make sure no one has to suffer as you did ever again. I promise.
Toshinori Yagi smiled wide.
That's my boy. Now get some rest. We can talk more later. We're headed back to UA in the morning.
This video is sponsored by Skillshare. With the services Skillshare provides, you can get access to many in-depth tutorial videos on basically anything you want to learn. Each class that they have is bound to help you with your creative endeavors. Do you want to learn how to make videos like this one? Do you want to learn how to write scripts or edit audio? Skillshare has you covered. And with our link, you can have a 14-day free trial. So what are you waiting for? Click the link now and get 14 days worth of classes free. Link in the description below.
It scared him, honestly. The thought of going back to UA, with full knowledge that Shigaraki could track his whereabouts and show up at any moment. It frightened him to his core. But he knew he had to. He had to try and make a difference, and he had to protect those he cared about. He had to become the kind of hero that All Might wanted him to be. He had to be the kind of hero that would never make the same mistakes as All Might. Even still, that conviction only got him so far. He had been laying on this cot for a while now, maybe a few hours, and he'd been staring up at the exit to the tent. Nothing was stopping him. He could get up, grab the rest of his hero gear, and disappear like nothing had happened. He'd get away from the people he loved. He'd rest for a little while longer, and then he'd go deal with Shigaraki. He hadn't done any of that, of course, because he knows All Might was right. And even if he could face Shigaraki completely alone, fully rested and with no distractions, who's to say he could even win? No, he had to go back to UA. He had to take the risk and accept help from his friends and the other heroes. It was the only way he could truly save the world, and it was the only way he could prove All Might right. So he stayed in the tent,
his eyes never straying from the exit, and his heart never departing from All Might's words. If it were to, he was afraid he'd fall back on his instinct to leave. He was going to find a way, though. He was going to change things. He had to. The exit of the tent stayed in his vision for a long time. Laying on his side was most comfortable, as it let his arm have a chance to hang without touching anything and irritating the wound. So he stared and watched as the wind swept in and whipped the flaps of the tent back and forth. Off in the distance, he could still see smoke rising into the night sky. It egged him on, pulled at his muscles, and screamed at him to get up and go save whoever was in trouble. For all he knew, it was simply a bonfire. The civilian camps tended to light them most nights anyways. But still, he stared at the smoke and begged for danger sense to flare up, to give him a good excuse to run off. But no such excuse came. Instead, out of the corner of his eye, he saw the familiar bounce of brown hair poke its way into view. Watching as the figure stepped into the tent, he immediately recognized who it was. Uraraka.
Hey, Deku.
There was a silence that fell between the two of them, their eyes locked, and it felt as if an entire conversation was happening just from a simple gaze. Ochako was the first one to say anything, though Izuku noticed she's averted her eyes down to the ground.
I wanted to, come and check on you,
she said, her voice soft.
Make sure you were okay. I can, come back later, or in the morning. I didn't know you were still bandaged up and...
No! His voice suddenly screeched, going up 12 octaves and making him nearly smack himself from the embarrassment. I mean, I'm totally fine. You don't have to go. Thank you. It was quiet as she walked over and sat down on the cot next to him, her warmth radiating off her and sending chills up his spine. She reached over and grabbed his hand, intertwining their fingers and squeezing gently. Her breathing sounded ragged before she spoke once more, and he could tell she was on the verge of tears.
You have no idea how much you worried me, how much I missed you, Izuku.
Deku squeezed her hand back, and a wave of comfort washed over him. Her words only registered a few moments later, and a shameful sensation rose within him. There was weight behind her voice as she used his first name, and without much thought he found himself leaning forward, bringing her into an embrace. I'm so sorry. I realize now that I had it wrong. I missed you too. If there was any level of embarrassment from the situation, it didn't bother him enough to stop. All Might's words resonated with him earlier, and he started to realize just how hard this must have been for those he had left behind. When All Might had left Night Eye, it had been horrible. He couldn't imagine Ochako or any of his other friends feeling that way. And even without that, the idea that it was him who was making her cry, who was keeping her in this state of worry, it destroyed him inside. The embrace lasted for what felt like an eternity, and when they finally broke apart, he noticed the tears in Ochako's eyes. He opened his mouth to apologize, but she just shook her head and smiled.
It's okay, really. I know you were trying to protect us.
Her eyes looked out to the tent exit.
I know you're strong, Izuku. You're so incredibly strong and brave. And you have this cosmic destiny power. I get it. But you can't do this alone. You just can't.
Izuku felt his eyes start to water, and he looked away, unable to face her. He could feel her presence next to him, and he knew she was right. He had been trying to do this alone, trying to be the sole pillar, and it had been a mistake. All Might had made him see. He had to rely on others. He had to rely on her, and he had to let them help him. It was the only way he could save the world. The only way he could be a hero.
I know that now. I was wrong before. I wanted to protect everyone and just do it myself. But I know I can't do that now.
He squeezed her hand again and let his eyes dance down to her arm where their fingers locked.
All Might spoke to me earlier. I don't want to make that mistake again.
He felt her head rest on his shoulder, and a few moments later he stilled as he felt her lips rest on his shoulder. I'm happy you can finally see that. But I want to know why, Izuku. She opened her eyes to his, and the infinite pools of hazel entranced him. Why were you so hell-bent on doing it all on your own? Why wouldn't you let us help you? All those times we found you. All those times you just barely got away. What was really stopping you? Izuku's chest clenched, and he looked away, his eyes now focusing once again on the exit of the tent. He knew the truth. He knew why he had been so against their help or involving them at all, but saying it out loud was an entirely different beast. He turned back to her with a sudden fire in his voice.
Because you matter. So does Kachan, and Ida, and Todoroki, and Aizawa, and Dever, Hawks, everyone in the class, and every civilian at UA right now. All of you matter so much. I can't bear the idea of letting any of you get hurt. If me using this gift, this power that I was given, means endangering myself, then it would be better than letting any of you die. I can't let that happen. I didn't want to let that happen.
Izuku. Ochako's eyes widened at his words, almost as if she were frightened by them. You matter too. Thank you all for indulging yourself in the content thus far. I hope you've enjoyed it. Now there are a few more things that I'd like to go over before the video ends. Firstly, I'd like to say that if you're in the mood for some great storytelling, We the Celestials has you covered. Our We the Celestials, My Hero Academia, and Naruto What If channels retell the story of their namesake anime with a twist. Check it out if you're interested. Secondly, on behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in today's excellent content production. Their details can be found in the description below. Lastly, if you're interested in what we do here at We the Celestials, I'd like to extend an invitation to join the team. The only caveat is that we only accept members from 16 years and older to join our crew. You can sign up for whatever category fulfills your interests by joining the recruitment Discord using the link in the description below. We're always looking for members to join us. Well, that's it from us for today's video, so thank you all for watching, farewell, and have a divine day.